With barely 7 months to the 2016 presidential election, the political landscape remains littered with uncertainty as the opposition mouths over a boycott of the 2016 election. However, this position is yet to be adopted as some party presidential candidates believe boycotting the election could give the incumbent a free rein and further disillusion the electorate. Former opposition FDC president Dr. Kizza Beisgye is a leading exponent of a boycott unless meaningful electoral laws as a cornerstone of free and fair polls are enacted by Parliament. Yet time does not look to be on the side of the opposition. On the spotlight is the doyen of the opposition, Dr. Kizza Beisgye. Dr. Beisgye, good evening, sir, and welcome to the show.
A very good evening to you, and good evening to all the viewers of On the Spot program.
You say the 2016 election is a ritual if the playing field is not leveled and a radical overhaul carried out to the Electoral Commission. However, in 2011, you offered yourself to contest, yet you claim the laws were not favorable. I just want, before I even go further, are you saying if there are no electoral reforms, we are not going to see a Dr. Beisgye participating in 2016 general election?
Yes, thank you very much, and I'm glad that the misrepresentation that has been going on in the public and more so in the media has been well captured by your introduction of this conversation, because there is a gross misrepresentation, which sometimes I think is maybe even deliberate, to suggest that I am advocating for boycott. I am not. I have spent the entire adult life, the whole of my adult life, fighting for elections. That is why I left my profession at a very, critical time and went to the bush to war. It was to fight for an election. So I cannot be the one calling on people not to engage in an election. But what I have been fighting for and what I continue to fight for is not any election. It is a free and fair election. Now, let's be clear. This country of ours, in its entire 52 plus years that it has been an independent country, don't forget that there has never been a free and fair election, maybe save for the independence election. The 5 elections we have had since independence have been problematic. They have led to wars indeed. They have led to a lot of conflict. And as a matter of fact, no single leader of this country has ever handed over power peacefully to another. So the type of elections we have is a matter that every single Ugandan must be extremely concerned about. So what I'm saying is not that there shouldn't be participation in an election. I am saying our country cannot afford once again to have a sham election. So everybody's effort must be focused on ensuring that what needs to be done to have a free and fair election is done, and if it is not done, that there is no other rigged election. In other words, my position is simple and clear, very clear. We must have a free and fair election
And nothing else.
or no election. We should not entertain once again another sham, fraudulent election that we know is sham.
Well,
now, the next
during a time when retired Colonel Dr. Beisgye is not a party president, he is now talking about there should be no election if there are no reforms. Yet at 3 occasions, Ugandans gave you unconditional support. And yet here you are.
Yes, but
here you are saying there should be this condition.
I'm not saying this.
People are going to read betrayal, sir.
No. I'm not saying this because I'm not party president. If I want to be a candidate in any election, I can be. There is nothing that stops me from being a candidate in any election. I have the full qualifications to be a candidate in any election. So nothing is stopping me. But what I'm simply inviting the Ugandans to do, and which they ought themselves to consider as necessary, is that we should not have another sham election. This regime, which has been in power now for 30 years, don't forget, came about through...
So I can hear somebody with a question. I'm imagining that when you are party president once, and even when you are leading reform agenda, and you knew that the ground was not leveled, why didn't you opt out? Because it was never leveled.
No.
So why come out now?
You see.
What has so changed?
No, let me explain to you. In 2001, and even in 1996, there was what was called a movement system, which was a fraudulent system, very clearly, but which hardly anybody understood. In fact, it was simply a debate. There was even an attempt at saying that there was a novel kind of system in Uganda which has been developed, which is unique for Africa, you know, a no-party kind of system. Some people, some scholars were even trying to put some colors on it as something that may be the appropriate thing. And the hallmarks of that system was that it would be carried, elections would be on individual merit, first of all, and two, that any government that is arises out of that system would be what was called a broad-based system, a government. Now, I, as you know, contested that view that this was not a no-party system, that actually it would turn into a one-party system. And this had been constitutionalized in 1995, that there was such a thing as a movement political system.
A Ugandan novel idea.
In fact, that fraud is still at the center of the problems that we have, because that fraud is still part of our constitution. In fact, what we have now is still that system. It's not a multi-party system. But you see, there is confusion. Even today, some people believe that there is actually a multi-party political system, which is nonsense. There is no multi-party political system. There is a one-party state, the movement state, which has allowed some organization outside the state.
So are you saying, is it going to be possible in the 7 months remaining?
So understand what happened. So in 2001, we tested the movement system, because I was coming from the movement. And I said, I want to contest as an individual. And you remember the response of Mr. Museveni. He said, no, you can't. You have not consulted us. The movement must discuss this. And he called a national conference to discuss whether anybody else can stand. And the movement conference urged him to stand and so on. So he himself conceded that there was no individual merit, that actually the movement must discuss and approve a candidate. And that's what it did. What that helped us to do, which was very critical, it gave us the ammunition that was necessary to go to the Constitutional Court and challenge what was billed as a system. And indeed, the Constitutional Court had absolutely no choice but to declare that this was not a system, it was a one-party state, which was illegal.
And then the president campaigned for multi-party.
And that therefore,
and then he campaigned for the return of multi-party.
He had no choice. That was a judgment of the Constitutional Court, that all other parties are free. So the change of system, or the apparent change, or supposed change of system, did not occur as a result of the referendum. It occurred as a result of the Constitutional Court case that was led by the Honorable Paul Kawanga Semogerere. That's what abolished the movement system. That would never have happened if we had not tested it through an election in 2001. So come 2006 then, there is a multi-party system as a result of that struggle. And we test now the multi-party system. And indeed, that test of the multi-party system went to the Supreme Court.
I know.
And the Supreme Court made fundamental declarations. They said this election is not free or fair. Unanimously, all the 7 judges, without division, they said this is not a free and fair election. And they went ahead even to criticize many of the things that did not make it a free and fair elections. And indeed, many other observers of the election pointed out what needed to change. That is what advised the amendments, the reforms that we proposed to government then in 2009, which were handed over to government with a view to having 2011 election under a new system of election, of electoral management. But again, as you know, indeed, and this was the testing. We are testing the system at every stage. And there was an attempt, there were lies that they would adopt some changes and so on, and there were informal discussions where some things were agreed at the last minute when they went to Parliament. You may remember the famous statement of my brother now, who is also having problems from the system, the Honorable Amama Mbabazi, saying what had been discussed earlier to change the system were corridor whispers. Now, so the reforms then did not take place. Even the few changes that were made last minute. So the choice we had then was, because we had not prepared ourselves for a different, but don't forget, we attempted, even then at the last minute,
yeah, I think
changes.
Okay, Ugandans know your struggle, and they know what you have taken us through.
The position
so in the
now,
remaining 7 months, what really is going to happen? You anticipate? Because
you see, there is no, many things can happen, quite obviously, in 7 months. As the common saying goes, a day in politics is a very, very long time. A lot of things can happen in 1 month. And so what we are saying is this: the country has had a dialogue over the last more than 1 year. There was a discussion by broad, diverse formations of our citizens in every region of Uganda, the 15 regions. There was...
Except people who take decision for Uganda.
No, the people...
They were not there.
You see, that's where the confusion is. The people who...
But since yourselves, the other part...
Yes, but you see, the people whom you are talking about are the people who are supposed to take decisions delegated by us. They don't have original power. They have delegated power. The original power, the entire power, political power in this country rests in the citizens, not in their representatives. Their representatives use power that is delegated to them by the citizens. So if they fail, as they have indeed demonstrated, total failure,
let me pick you something I have seen from a write-up of a gentleman I have a lot of respect for, Daniel Karinaki. Today he says, every Ugandan has a friend or family member who could have died because there was no blood, no oxygen, no doctor, no ambulance, no bed, no catheter, no gloves, no electricity, no hospital, or even no medicine. And this is my addition. And yet, Ugandans are not angry, Dr. Beisgye.
No, they are.
Despite all these problems.
No, they are. Ugandans are very angry. Ugandans are very angry, very concerned. You see people, but they don't know what to do. And they are kept in a situation, and that's what all dictatorships do. You see, dictatorships hold on to power by a variety of manipulative tools. The first one is they don't allow citizens to get together and compare notes, divide and rule, stopping discussion. That's why we have the Public Order Management Bill. If you want to discuss about your country, you need permission from the Inspector General of Government, and so on and so forth.
Haven't we seen Ugandans, especially here in central Uganda, come together, fundraise, make billions of money, do what they want? I mean, Ugandans have come together in most cases. In fact, the other day when one of our own was battling cancer, Ugandans came together in one day and collected 110 million shillings. Why don't you and your colleagues turn that collective energy, positive energy,
yes,
for changing Uganda?
So you agree with me that there is positive energy, the energy is there. The people are actually annoyed. The people have the will to do something. What is lacking in our country? What has let down our people? What is the betrayal in this country is leadership.
We're going to take a break, Dr. Beisgye. We're going to take a break. When we come back,
is the problem.
I want to ask, have we accepted the fate of disenfranchisement? We'll be right back.
To involve yourself, the new voters register is out and it's your responsibility to check if your voters details are included. You too must take time off your busy schedule, go to your local parish and switch on your votability today.
I switched on my votability because I believe the quality of my life depends on the leaders I choose.
Switch on your votability today and be sure to vote in 2016. This message is brought to you by Citizens Coalition for Electoral Democracy in Uganda.
Being part of the Bell Nation means you roll with whatever comes your way. So let's see if Gilbert will smile through our Buddha joke. Welcome to the Bell Nation.
On the next episode, brought to you by...
There is new Omo fast action.
We have so far around 38 political parties registered here in Uganda. We don't see any political ideology that is really contesting with the ruling party, that is NRM.
Find somebody registering in all parties and have no belonging.
There is no country that has ever been prepared for multi-party politics.
I was telling the president recently, allowing people to live in independent seats and going to NRM is not a solution at all.
Children's amazing ideas can lead to tough stains. With new Omo fast action. New Omo. No one removes stains faster.
Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Dr. Kizza Beisgye. We were discussing the road to 2016. Dr. Beisgye, you seem to suggest that the way how we are heading in 2016, if the election happens, this will likely to be just a ritual, if anything, a sham election. In what sense? What do you mean?
Well, I think there are two major problems with the system of managing the elections in this country. The first one is that the system of managing elections, the institutions that manage elections are controlled by one group. In fact, by a person. Because you talk about the Electoral Commission. The entire Electoral Commission can be sacked by Mr. Museveni. He has power under the law, under the Constitution, to sack the Electoral Commission, the whole of it, or any of them, anytime he wants.
Under the law?
Under the law.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
Anytime he wants, he can sack that commission without reference to anybody. In other words, we have an electoral commission that serves entirely at the pleasure of Mr. Museveni, the president. Yet, Mr. Museveni is the candidate. In fact, now, the sole candidate. So the sole candidate has total control, total power over the managers of the elections. How can that electoral commission...
The power he has over the electoral commission is legal, is lawful.
Yes, and it is that law that must change. In other words, the law is unjust. You cannot have a law that provides that in a football match, the captain of one team will be the referee. And you say, since the law provides for that, you simply must go into the pitch and play. There must be, the whole idea of an election is that it must be played on a level ground. That is just the electoral commission. But it's not just the electoral commission. It's all institutions of the state. The military, the police.
If this system had ushered in FDC into the presidency, it would be okay by now.
No.
Because you played ball with it.
Yes, but you see, what I'm saying is, there is nothing that makes a system correct because it favors you. If that system is unjust, it remains unjust whether it favors you, whether it doesn't. So unless somebody tells me that such a system is just, and I've heard some people, ridiculously suggest that because the opposition wins some elections under that unjust system, therefore the system must be just. Because how else do you actually win some seats? That's nonsense. You see, first of all, there are some areas, like in by-elections, where, the whole country is focused on one seat, where the media is overwhelmingly focused on one area, where our whole entire country supporters come and fight over an election, and therefore they can overwhelm the rigging machinery. The regime may consider that it is negative to use the kind of force it uses for its survival over something that will not change anything anyway. So some seats may be allowed to go. But that cannot amount to changing the system. In fact, the winning of some seats by the opposition is needed by the regime, and therefore can even be structured to happen, so that they have some form of legitimacy. You see, there is some opposition around here, but there is absolutely no way that kind of overwhelming control, not just of the electoral commission, as I have said, of the military, the security that manages elections. In 2001, Aziz Kasuja, who was the chairman, actually wrote to President Museveni a letter that Ugandans should refer back to, saying the military has disintegrated this election. Okay,
now, if I may borrow your word from the medical profession, you have diagnosed Uganda's political problem. Dr. Beisgye, what is the prescription in the next 7 months?
So the prescription is one, that citizens of Uganda must realize that the institutions we have cannot transit the country to a democratic dispensation. In any case, this regime did not come through a democratic process. It has demonstrated in 30 years that it cannot manage a transition. So the responsibility, the primary responsibility now, must fall squarely on citizens who are the backstop of the power. The delegated groups cannot function, so we must step in. Citizens, you and me.
Yeah, but now how are you going to break the yoke of fear? So to expose this collective silence that that is all around.
Yes, fear is broken by information. Information that, if you challenge this, what happens is this. If we explain to citizens what happens, it's like when we are going to war. You know, people fear going to war because they don't know what war means. How do you defend yourself when you are at war? How you survive when you are in war? So we need to talk to each other about how to organize. The first thing, there are three things that we need to do as citizens. The first one, we must change our mindset. First of all, realize that we have no power, that we need power if our conditions are to change, because it is power that controls our resources. People are in poverty, unemployed, bad healthcare system like that you are talking about, poor education, poor infrastructure and so on, because the resources of this country are managed not in an accountable way. People who manage them can use them as they wish. And what we have seen is precisely that: plunder, squander, and so on. So people must realize that unless we regain power over our state, those things won't change. That's the mindset. The mindset must change. And the people must regain confidence that it's possible to regain power. Because most of our people are now despondent. They think nothing can be done. We have no power and we cannot get it.
But
changing the mindset is the first one. The second one and the most critical thing is we must organize. We must have coordination amongst citizens, which is one thing the regime, every dictatorship seeks to destroy. Coordination amongst citizens. That we must work on. Every political power, every political party, and I'm glad political parties are going out to organize, to have structures, but even outside political formations, citizens must have simply coordination.
In the last couple of months, what I've witnessed, the drive, especially here in Buganda, when Oweekitiibwa Peter Mayiga, the Katikiro, calls for the rebuilding or building of Masengere, people turn up in big numbers. They even give the little that they have.
Yes.
But when you tell them to demand the much that they don't have, they don't follow you.
No, they do. They do, and that is why.
People can't demand the much that they don't have. They can give the little that they have.
No, but even the demand they can. You are simply comparing unlike things, because the building of the Masengere does not immediately threaten the regime. The demand for what they don't have from the regime threatens the regime. And that's why you are saying that people don't respond, but that's why I have been besieged at home. That's why I'm not allowed, that's why I move with the police everywhere. That's why I'm not allowed to walk freely, because precisely people respond. And so what we need to do now, as I have said, the second thing is to have coordination so that people can act, because the power of the people acts when they are together, when they act in consonance. Just like the traders here in town, when they were being forced to do things that were so unfair, they closed their shops. They all coordinated, closed their shops one day, and the regime was on their knees, begging them to reopen and rescinding what they had done. So we need to coordinate, and we are doing it. We are working day and night to coordinate amongst the citizens. Finally, we must act. Let nobody out there consider that you will have power given to you on a silver platter. Power is acquired. If Ugandans want power, they must go out and acquire it. Acquiring is
taking us to
acquiring is by action. You must take action that empowers you. You will not sit, and that's where some of the problems have been coming from. People thinking that somehow, you know, things will change without their own active participation, without their own assertion. That must change, so that just like the traders had to act and close their shops and regain their initiative, citizens must take some actions that will put the regime where it belongs in the area.
Does that action include sword and blood?
No, it could. Because as you know,
you're suggesting.
It could. That's not what I'm suggesting, but it could. That's what Mr. Museveni chose. It's one of the actions. It's a legitimate action. It's even allowed by our law, by the way. But that's not what I'm recommending. And I have been very clear that what we need to do, Those who, it's legitimate. Those who want to organize, I don't fight them. But you see, when you use violence, you do not empower ordinary people. The people who are using the violence may capture power, but the power remains locked up in that cocoon of people that have used violence. What we are advocating is democratizing power. We want power to the ordinary people. And what we achieved doing that is using non-violent means.
Somebody,
and there are many ways of non-violent actions that can lead to the delivery of power.
There are many of you with a lot of political clout. Removing an incumbent in Africa is a Herculean task. And somebody is asking, why can't the opposition, the Dr. Beisgyes, General Muntus, the Maos, the Dr. Tunus, the Lukwagos, and those who have fallen out with the establishment, including former Vice President Bukenya, and even Mama Mbabazi, the spy czar, General Sejusa, why can't you form, he says, a rainbow coalition ahead of 2016?
That is a wonderful thing that ought to happen. But even if it doesn't happen, and it's not easy to happen, and we should not be hard on ourselves because it has not happened. A dictatorship, a regime, a junta like the NRM junta is not sleeping. It's also working overtime to make sure that that does not happen. And that's what I told you. One of the tools they use is divide and rule. So they will infiltrate organizations and cause all kinds of problems within organizations so that there is no concurrence and there is no concerted effort. But that does not mean that if the political leaders and the political formations don't get their act together, the citizens can. Citizens can get their act together in spite of what the political formations are doing. In fact, they have been doing so. But in the elections, we have always failed to have a common front, but the voters have always voted as a common front. So I have a lot of trust and respect
understand Dr. Beisgye,
for the citizens.
Understand Dr. Beisgye, you have had talks with General Sejusa and Honorable Mama Mbabazi. What was the plank of the meetings?
Well, whomever I have talked to, and there is absolutely no reason why I shouldn't talk to all Ugandans who are interested in our politics. The point of discussion is one. How do we act together to empower citizens, to restructure the state of Uganda and have an accountable regime that serves this country?
Are you on the same prism now with these two people I've talked about, General Sejusa and Mama Mbabazi, as we talk? Politically, are you on the same level?
I have not heard any one of actually all the political actors who are challenging the status quo. I must say that my brother Mama Mbabazi is still vague, because it seems he's still nursing the idea of using the rules of the dictatorship, working from within the rules of the dictatorship to free the country. It can't happen. You must get out of the rules of the dictatorship, in fact, challenge them and
change the rules of engagement.
Yes, and link up with all those who are contesting the rules of the dictatorship, but everyone is equally concerned that we must have a transition, and I think that's a good starting point.
Okay.
As I have said, for me, my focus now is, yes, let's talk with all the political actors, political leaders, but I think the focus is on citizens. Let us empower citizens with information. Let us change the mindset of our citizens. Let us get them more organized on the grassroots, not necessarily by partisan formations, but just to get together, to act together, to liberate themselves. And once they have been empowered, once they are able to take actions that empower them, and as I have said, some of the actions that must be taken must be to ensure that we have free and fair elections or no elections.
Okay.
That is
Dr. Beisgye, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be asking you the question that has come from many Ugandans. When we put it on our Facebook page, most of them were asking, 2016, Dr. Beisgye, are you coming as a presidential candidate? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guest tonight is Dr. Kizza Beisgye. I have an avalanche of your comments and questions that have come on our Facebook account. Let me maybe go through 3 or 2. Colonel Dr. Kizza Beisgye, this is from Yaka Emmanuel. Yaka Emmanuel says, Colonel Dr. Kizza Beisgye, the opposition has weakened as far as power taking has weakened. Why don't you start mobilization for votes as you ask for electoral reforms? Telesa Issa says, Dr. Beisgye, do you have any plans in FDC of fronting a strong candidate for 2016 that is perceived with the public as strong to at least compete strongly? Beside this Mugisha Muntu, because let's face it, other factors constant, FDC now is not viewed as strong as it was when you are still its president. Why don't you think of what do you think is going wrong now? And Emmanuel Baingana says, Dr. Beisgye, what is it that you want to change in the Electoral Commission? Out of 386 MPs, FDC has 36, DP 15, UPC 10, NRM 256. Uganda's problem is not Electoral Commission, as you have always said, or Mr. Museveni. It is changing their mindset economically. Could you respond to those from our Facebook?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. First of all, whether we should campaign for votes as we campaign for reforms, there is absolutely no problem. The votes have never been the problem. Because you see, you cannot separate a campaign for free election from a campaign for votes, because unless people are persuaded that actually if they vote for you there is a possibility of changing the government, they will not be interested. People don't engage in academic exercises just to go and vote for the sake of it. People go to vote because they want to see some result. So if people know that the outcome is already known, you know, I've been listening to what is going on in the other elections in the region you must be following, where the elections are well known ahead of the polls, not because the person who is the incumbent is popular, but because the odds are so heavily stacked against the opposition that nobody considers that there is a fair chance for any chance for the opposition to win. In that case, they don't engage. You've seen how the turn up for elections has declined very steeply in this country, in spite of the rigging, the artificial votes which are piled in the boxes. In the last election, nearly half the voters, registered voters, didn't turn up to vote. Why? Because
you did not inspire them to come and vote.
Precisely the reason we don't inspire them is that they don't see any chance of you getting into power under the circumstances. People are not blind. And, you know, even people actually say, even if you were announced, they will not allow you. And they are listening to the military. You've seen military officers, very high-ranking military officers who say, even if you elect Beisgye, I won't salute him, I can't respect him, I won't accept him. And nobody charges them.
Let us involve
and, and nobody charges them. So in other words, campaign for reforms is the most fundamental before you talk about campaigning for votes. Secondly, the FDC will always have a strong candidate. People out there should understand, first of all, that General Muntu is a strong person. He has not been tested in any election. So why do you dismiss him outright? But even if the FDC people considered that he was not strong enough for us to go to the polls, there is nothing which stops us fielding another candidate. Because unlike in other parties, in FDC, the party president doesn't necessarily have to be the candidate. We shall have an election of a party flag.
You don't have a sole candidate?
At some no, there can never be a sole
candidate.
Last day somebody was asking what needs to change in the EC. The most fundamental thing that needs to change in the EC is, one, the tenure of the commissioners. You must have commissioners that don't serve at the pleasure of the candidate. That must change. Two, now you have the whole structure of the commission from Rwakojo, who is the secretary, the permanent, in other words, those who are not politically appointed, the civil service of the commission, headed by Rwakojo, who is an NRM cadre, and obviously politically appointed. The civil service of the commission must itself also change, because it's actually far more important than the appointees on top, who are like board members. So the nature of appointment and the security of tenure of the commission must change. Somebody was talking about the numbers in parliament. If you don't have a free and fair election, for heaven's sake, don't talk about who won.
Okay, let us involve other Ugandans who are working the phones right now and they want to ask you questions or make their contribution tonight.
Gentlemen in studio, good evening.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Mate. I'm calling from Bundubujo.
Bundubujo, you're on air, sir.
Yeah, I would like to give a suggestion. Mr. Beisgye was suggesting that at least if we come back and turn in 2016, it would sound better.
I'm sorry?
He wants me to stand in 2016.
Okay, thank God you got it. Let me take another caller. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is God from Hindo. I'm calling from Nalumunye.
Nalumunye?
Yes.
God from Hindo, you're on air, sir.
All right. I would like to suggest that I know that doctor has been derailed by a number of people who don't want to have change in Uganda by planting a bad ideology in the people, creating fear, and he has somehow resigned and he's leaving the opposition without leadership. My view is that he should hang on. Even if he contests 10 times, we will still have change in this country.
Thank you, God.
And I think by him getting out, he's actually being counterproductive to the struggle. My other experience as an individual is that when he contests as a candidate, I mean, from the time he contested in 2001, he has created change. Some of us went to university because he put up a concerted struggle against this regime, and we managed to break into the lot that went to university and government sponsorship. We have gone ahead to change the families and our lives because of his struggle.
But you should be the foot soldier who is carrying on the gospel in Nalumunye.
All right.
Okay. Good from Hindo. Thank you very much. Let us take another Ugandan online now. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Patrick?
I'm fine, thank you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Derek, but I'm going to feel free speaking in Uganda. I think it's okay.
I'll try to follow because I live in Buganda. You know a few words.
This message, message manye genda kutukira dala ku oli na werezo obubaka ku President Museveni kuba manya ina basajja bali mukulaba show. Bw'aba ayagala okutegeera nti waliwo ekintu ekisobola okukolebwa okukyusa gavumenti ye, afuteerewo omusinga atugambe nti ayagala abantu 10 twewenye ku mwoyo gwa Uganda, tugambe nti tugenda kusaddaakibwa ave mu bukulembeze kuba
now
I will be fast on that list and
okay.
upon the living God.
I'm missing a few things. That's why sometimes I don't want to go local, not even my own Rtoro, because some people will be left out. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, this is Francis Odompeni.
I can't hear you well. Could you repeat that?
This is Francis Odompeni. I want to ask a question for Dr. Beisgye.
Odompin?
Yes.
Where are you calling from, sir?
I'm calling from Entebbe.
From?
Entebbe.
From Entebbe or Odompin, go right ahead. Though your line seems not to be very okay, but could you go on, sir?
My question is one. I've been supporting Dr. Beisgye since 2001 when he started But the question we have are two. One, what are they doing for the grassroots? I mean, people at the grassroots, because people out here, people, I mean, the opposition normally organize their things from Kampala, but they don't reach the grassroots.
Okay.
Two, my people from Village, they have been voting for Dr. Beisgye, but they are counted from Western Uganda. Now, what is going to do to get vote and support from people from Western Uganda where it comes from?
Okay. Thank you very much. Let me take the last one. Odong Pin, I think that was a big one. Let me take the last caller tonight. And there are so many of you, but unfortunately, I'm going to take the very last because of time. Hello? Hello?
Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Shaban Mpeinwe.
Yes, sir.
And I'm calling from Kampala.
All right. You're on air, sir.
Yes, I would like to ask Dr. Beisgye. And actually, I would rather advise him not to come back on 2016, and actually he should be in Mulago, because the people in Mulago are suffering, and he should, he's a doctor. He should be in Mulago, and he's a professional.
Shaban.
So that is my advice.
Okay. Ugandans, you can be very interesting and exciting
yes,
too.
I am extremely grateful.
Somebody wants you to do your profession, by the way, and leave all these kind of things of running around and avoid the rough and tumble of the presidential campaign.
I'm extremely grateful to all those who have made the effort to call. Maybe I start with the last one. I'm sure Shaban Mpeinwe knows that doctors are running away from Mulago, even those who are still in the profession. And not to say that even the government wants to send some to Trinidad and Tobago in spite of the problems that bedevil the medical profession. You outlined what is the ills in the medical profession. The medical profession will never function unless we pay attention to the conditions of service of medical workers, unless we pay attention to the materials that are available for medical workers to use, and unless we pay attention to the infrastructure within which they work. But I have no problem serving anywhere, only that Mulago healthcare will not be better unless we sort out the politics. Now, going to the gentleman Odong Pini from Entebbe, he made important contributions that we need to go to the grassroots entirely. Every politics, every election is at the end of the day local. You only cause change at the grassroots. And so every political actor must get to the grassroots.
In fact, he even says, why do you win in Chawente, in Muchwini, in Aduku, but lose in Wakabengo?
Yes.
Why? Where you come from?
So, well, first of all, of course, happily, in the last election, I didn't lose where I come from. My chairman of the sub-county.
Well, Western Uganda.
Yeah. So, first of all, I've said going to the grassroots is perfect. There are prohibitions, there are obstacles to going to the ground. And there are a whole range of them in a dictatorship, including the funding itself of opposition political parties and political actors. So there are many obstacles of going to the ground. We could reach them through the media. There are media obstacles going through the media. So there are many obstacles to going to the grassroots, but going to the grassroots is a must. Secondly, the support from Western Uganda is immense. But you see, the rigging is structured. The people go on the table and decide how to structure what vote to come from where. That is, of course, also not to say that the patronage system, the favors that Museveni has used to control politics, have also been heavily doled out in the South, in the political South, as opposed to the North. The North was actually totally marginalized by this regime, deliberately. On top of the war, the North was marginalized. Up to today, Look what today, just my Kasabu region of Kigezi, a small area of Kigezi, we have 10 ministers, including the Prime Minister. The entire North, I think, has 2 ministers. So it's a combination of factors. One, the patronage.
Okay.
The goods that go to the West.
You made that point because in the interest of time, if you could touch on the others,
that notwithstanding, our support in the West is immense, and that's why, of course, increasingly we have also won many areas in the West. Kasese, we have always won it. We have MP from Rukunjiri. We have an MP from Kabale. We have an MP from Bushenyi in Ankole. So things, even now, because of the level of support mounting, it is sometimes difficult to stop winning, especially in by-elections. Now,
very quickly on the others.
On the others, the changes, I think Mr. Nalumunye simply said...
from Nalumunye.
Godfrey from Nalumunye simply said that I should continue fighting on. They have benefited from changes in policy because of our struggle, which is true. That's why some people, who don't follow things, take the propaganda of the NRM that the opposition has no policies. Yet it is our policies which actually direct policy of government, including healthcare, including education. Well, now the loan scheme.
Muhindo is a living example.
The loan scheme at the university was in my manifesto. It was not in Museveni's manifesto. It is now a reality. And so then there was the other gentleman who talked in Uganda. You didn't follow. He said that he asks Mr. Museveni if he wants people to sacrifice themselves so that he can leave office. They are prepared. He's one of them. So that he kills 100, if he wants 100 dead, so that he can go as a sacrifice.
He wants to come on the chopping board.
He wants to come on the chopping board so that his future generations can live in freedom. Now, I think the last one was the one who was saying, is there a strong candidate? Is there a strong candidate? No, I think that one. Mate was saying I should stand in 2016. Now, this 2016, let's be very clear. I have every qualification to stand in 2016. There is nothing that will stop me from standing in 2016. But that is not what is on the table. What is on the table is that we must have a free and fair election first, before we talk about candidates.
Thank you. Your concluding remark tonight.
Well, that citizens of Uganda must really wake up, must rise to their responsibility of directing this country away from another disaster, which is looming. Another disaster is definitely looming. As I have said, no leader has ever handed over power peacefully to another. We have a leader now who has been sitting tight for 30 years in spite of everything going wrong, which you are reading about yourself. So citizens must simply change their mind and know that it's their duty, that they have the capacity to change things. Let's organize. And if you don't know how to link up with other citizens, please contact me. I have been sending out my telephone number. I'm sure you'll find my telephone number. Contact me so that I link you up with the citizens where they are. And we must take action. Action we must take. Without action, there will be no change. I am not going to retire. I had some people saying I have retired. I may retire from the party. I may retire from the army. I may retire from being a doctor. I will not retire from fighting for freedom in this country and ensuring that we leave this country a better place than we find it.
You've heard him. Thank you very much, Dr. Kizza Beisgye. And that brings us to the end of tonight's edition of On the Spot. Join us again next week when we have to carry forward the debate. Is the problem really we, the Ugandan citizenry? Are we the problem? I think the debate will continue along those lines. Good night and God bless Uganda.